In 1934, Britain needed more than a new fighter. It needed a reason to believe it could win the next war. Biplanes still dotted RAF airfields, their wires humming like the last notes of an old song. At Supermarine, a company famous for racing seaplanes, a driven designer named R.J. Mitchell was sketching curves that didn't look like anything else in the sky. His question was simple. What if speed, elegance, and combat power could live in the same airframe? Mitchell's answer became a shape people could recognize from a silhouette alone. The Spitfire's elliptical wing wasn't a stylistic flourish. It was mathematics sculpted into metal, an area-efficient planform that minimized drag, spread lift evenly, and housed guns without bulky bumps. Flush riveting, a stressed skin monocoque, retractable landing gear, and an enclosed cockpit made the prototype as modern as the mindset behind it. On March 5, 1936, the Spitfire flew for the first time. The Air Ministry placed a big order almost immediately. The RAF wasn't just buying a fighter, it was buying time. Under the cowl sat Rolls-Royce's V-12 Merlin, the beating heart that would evolve faster than the war could change the questions. Early Merlins used carburetors, reliable and familiar, but they had a nasty habit. Push -G, and the fuel could momentarily cut out. It wasn't a deal-breaker, but in a knife fight it mattered. Later, a simple restrictor fix, Miss Schilling's orifice, and then improved pressure carburation helped keep fuel flowing, while successive Merlins brought more boost, better supercharging, and a ceiling of performance the airframe kept exploiting. The first summer of war proved the concept in fire. Over Dunkirk and then across the Channel, the Spitfire met its mirror rival, the Messerschmitt Bf-109, head-on. The two fighters embodied different philosophies that clashed like dialects of the same language. The 109 fought best vertically, diving and climbing with the help of its fuel-injected engine. The Spitfire turned tighter, held energy well, and punished anyone who lingered too long in a flat fight. RAF controllers used radar to vector squadrons precisely. Hurricanes mauled the bombers, while Spitfires fenced with the escorts. For months in 1940, Britain's defense rested on a web of ground control and the Spitfire's agility, both just good enough, just in time. The Spitfire wasn't perfect. Its narrow-track landing gear, tucked into those thin wings, demanded finesse on takeoff and landing, especially from grass strips or in crosswinds. Range was limited. Combat endurance could be measured in handfuls of minutes once you climbed and formed up. Drop tanks helped later, but the Spitfire would never be an all-day escort. What it became instead was a platform that specialized brilliantly, then specialized again, without losing the soul of the original machine. Evolution started almost immediately. The Mark I went to war with 8.303 Browning machine guns, light, fast-firing, and devastating against unarmored bombers. The Mark II added a beefier Merlin 12 and better protection. Combat experience demanded heavier punch, and the wing sprouted 20mm Hispano cannons. First two, often with 4.303s alongside, then standardized cannon-forward armament that turned snapshots into saw cuts through enemy airframes. When the Focke-Wulf 190 shocked the RAF in 1941–42 with speed and climb, the Spitfire 5 couldn't match at altitude. Supermarine answered with a stopgap masterpiece, the Spitfire Mark IX. Its two-stage, two-speed supercharged Merlin 61 transformed the airplane without redesigning it. Suddenly, the Spitfire was climbing into the high 20s and 30s with authority, trading punches on equal terms and then some. Many pilots would quietly call the Mark IX the sweet spot, powerful, balanced, and forgiving when flown hard. The airframe kept stretching. Clipped wing variants traded some high-altitude performance for roll rate and low-level snap. Clipped, cropped, and clapped field mods wrung every knot from tired airframes. Photo-recon Spitfires, unarmed, polished smooth, and painted sky blue, slipped over flak towers at altitudes that made interception theoretical. On islands like Malta, Spitfires arrived just in time to stabilize the air war, their short legs less of a problem than their short supply. In North Africa and across northern France, fighter-bomber Spitfires carried bombs without losing their fighter's soul. Then came the big nose era. Rolls-Royce's Griffon engine pushed displacement and power into new territory, over 2,000 horsepower in late marks, bringing 5-bladed props, lengthened noses, and a new personality. The Mark 14 could run down V-1s in a shallow dive, claw for altitude like a different species, and, in some variants, gave pilots a cut-down fuselage and a bubble canopy for the visibility they'd always wanted. Navalized Seafires traded easy deck handling for the Spitfire's fighting spirit. Their gear was still narrow and their range tight, but on a carrier deck where launches and recoveries were counted in yards, they put pure combat performance where the fleet needed it most. Numbers tell part of the story. More than 20,000 Spitfires and Seafires were built in dozens of major marks and sub-variants. The type served from 1938 into the post-war years, wore the roundels of many nations, and found new lives as trainers, racers, and museum flyers whose takeoffs still hush a crowd. But the statistics hide what made the Spitfire different. It could change without changing who it was. New engines, new wings, new rolls. The core stayed, an airframe that turned lift and power into grace under pressure. Tactically, pilots learned a simple rule. Fly the Spitfire where it lives best. Keep the fight flat when you must, vertical when you can buy the energy, and never let a dive become a runaway if you're nursing early war carburation. Don't get seduced by the turn if the deck is stacked against you. Use teamwork, use height, use the control response that stays crisp even as the ASI needle creeps. The airplane rewarded smooth hands and punished clumsy ones less than most. Many who started in trainers that felt like tractors discovered the Spitfire's controls were light, harmonized, and honest. An airplane that made average pilots good and good pilots great. The legend is inseparable from the people. Douglas Bader, flying on tin legs, insisted on aggression and altitude. Johnny Johnson stacked victories over the Channel and into Normandy. Polish and Czech squadrons, fighting to reclaim homelands, brought ferocity and precision to RAF formations. Ground crews learned to swap engines and patch skins at a tempo that matched the flying, writing a maintenance culture into the Spitfire's reliability that mattered as much as any design choice. The airplane gave them a fighting chance. They gave it back as availability. By 1944 to 45, the air war's shape had changed. Long-range escort belonged to Mustangs. Heavy fighter-bomber work bent wings better suited to rockets. Yet the Spitfire remained relevant because it could be retasked in a morning and re-engined in a season. In low-level recce, in high-cover patrols, in the point defense scrambles that still cropped up over the continent, it was a first-choice tool. When the guns finally went quiet, the silhouette that had marked a nation's defiance became a symbol of what smart engineering married to ruthless iteration can do. The Spitfire taught a handful of durable lessons. Drag you don't make is thrust you don't need. An airframe with room to grow is a strategy, not a luxury. Power matters, but power delivered at the right altitude, through the right prop, with the right cooling and fuel system matters more. And the best fighter is the one your pilots can use today, that your ground crews can fix tonight, and your factories can still build tomorrow. It's tempting to treat the Spitfire as a museum piece, all shine and sentiment. It isn't. It's a working theory about how to win a moving war. Build something beautiful, because beauty is usually the shortest path to efficiency. Build it simple, because you'll be changing it. And build it flexible, because your enemy gets a vote. In 1936, the Spitfire looked like a sketch from the future. In 1940, it looked like hope. By war's end, it looked like proof that a good idea, executed relentlessly, can grow fast enough to meet history. That's the Spitfire. Mathematics with manners, a fighter that never stopped inventing itself, and a reminder that sometimes the right shape can carry a whole country. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.